Jaya Radha Kala Chandri Radha Kala Chandri Radhe. Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Good morning, devotees. So good to see your face again, Mother Kunti. I know you're always listening to class online, but it's just so much more ecstatic to see you and your reactions in temple. But good morning to everyone. Welcome to a very special way to begin the day, our Srimad Bhagavatam class. My name is Manjari Gopika Devidasi, and today we will be hearing from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 17, verses 26 through 41, finishing the chapter, and we will focus on verse 28. Before we begin, I ask for your blessings, that I may speak something pleasing to my spiritual master, to Srila Prabhupada, and to all of the devotees. Let's all together chant the invocation prayers. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim sarvasvatim vyasyam tato jayam udirayet nashtaprayesha badreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuru Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. All right, so we'll begin now hearing from Canto 6, Chapter 17, verses 26 through 41. And we can, it's 15 verses, we should be able to get through it. We'll pass around the microphone. Before we begin, just a quick recap. So here we are. What has just happened is King Chitraketu, so a pure devotee of Lord Narayan, was traveling in his celestial airplane when he saw Lord Shiva embracing Mother Parvati while in an assembly giving a discourse. And King Chitraketu, he made a comment, a playful comment, really to himself, and he laughed. He didn't mean any offense, but Parvati Devi misunderstood his words, and she cursed him to be born in his next life as a demon. And Chitraketu apologizes to her, he accepts the curse, and then he departs. So that has just happened, and now we will hear Lord Shiva comment on what has just occurred. So you can go ahead and start with text 26.
Thereafter, in the presence of the great sage Narada, the demons, the inhabitants of the Siddhaloka, and his personal associates, Lord Shiva, who is the most powerful, spoke to his wife, Parvati, while they all listened.
Lord Shiva said, "My dear beautiful Parvati, have you seen the greatness of the Vaishnavas? Being servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, they are great souls and are not interested in any kind of material happiness."
Devotees solely engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, never fear any condition of life. For them, the heavenly planets, liberation, and the hellish planets are all the same. For such devotees are interested only in the service of the Lord.
Because of the actions of the Supreme Lord's external energy, the living entities are conditioned in contact with material bodies. The dualities of happiness and distress, birth and death, curses and favors are natural byproducts of this contact in the material world.
As one mistakenly considers a flower garland to be a snake or experiences happiness and distress in a dream, so in the material world, by lack of careful consideration, we differentiate between happiness and distress, considering one good and the other bad.
Persons engaged in devotional service to the Lord Vasudeva, Krishna, have naturally perfect knowledge and detachment from this material world. Therefore, such devotees are not interested in the so-called happiness or so-called distress of this world.
Neither I, Lord Shiva, nor Brahma, nor the Ashwini Kumars, nor Narada, or the other great sages who are Brahma's sons, nor even the demigods can understand the pastimes and personality of the Supreme Lord. Although we are part of the Supreme Lord, we consider ourselves independent, separate controllers, and thus we cannot understand his identity.
He holds no one as very dear and no one as inimical. He has no one for his own relative and no one is alien to him. He is actually the soul of all living entities. Thus he is the auspicious friend of all living beings and is very near and dear to all of them.
Text 34 and 35. This magnanimous Chitraketu is a dear devotee of the Lord. He is equal to all living entities and is free from attachment and hatred. Similarly, I am also very dear to Lord Narayan. Therefore, no one should be astonished to see the activities of the most exalted devotees of Narayan, for they are free from attachment and envy. They are always peaceful and they are equal to anyone.
Sri Shukadeva Goswami said, "O king, after hearing this speech by her husband, the demigoddess Uma, the wife of Lord Shiva, gave up her astonishment at the behavior of King Chitraketu and became steady in intelligence."
The great devotee Chitraketu was so powerful that he was quite competent to curse Mother Parvati in retaliation. But instead of doing so, he very humbly accepted the curse and bowed his head before Lord Shiva and his wife. This is very much to be appreciated as the standard behavior of a Vaishnava.
Being cursed by Mother Durga, Bhavani, the wife of Lord Shiva, that same Chitraketu accepted birth in a demoniac species of life. Although still fully equipped with transcendental knowledge and practical application of that knowledge in life, he appeared as a demon at the fire sacrifice performed by Twasta, and thus he became famous as Vritrasura.
My dear King Parikshit, you inquired from me how Vritrasura, a great devotee, took birth in a demoniac family. Thus, I have tried to explain to you everything about this.
Chitraketu was a great devotee, Mahatma. If one hears this history of Chitraketu from a pure devotee, the listener also is freed from the conditional life of material existence.
Very cool. Such a
One who rises from bed early in the morning and recites this history of Chitraketu, controlling his words and mind and remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead, will return home back to Godhead without difficulty.
very cool. Such a especially gorgeous section. Thank you, Lord Shiva, for sharing these wonderful teachings. I wish we could cover them all, but we're going to go to a very famous verse, text 28, to focus on today. Narayana parasarve nakuchaschana bibhyati Svarga pavarga narakshev apitulyartha darshinaha Narayana parasarve nakutasthana bibhyati Varga narkeshu Apitulyartha darshina Narayana parasarve Nakutaschana vidyati Varga narakeshu Apitulyartha darshina Narayana parasarve Nakutasthana bibhyati Sarvapavarga nariksha Apitulyartha darshinaha. All right, let's do the synonyms. Excuse me. Narayana para, pure devotees who are interested only in the service of Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sarve, all. Na, not. Kutashchana, anywhere. Bibhyati, are afraid. Svarga, in the higher planetary systems. Apavarga, in liberation. Narakeshu, and in hell. Api, even. Tulya, equal. Artha, value. Darshina, who see. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Devotees solely engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, never fear any condition of life. For them, the heavenly planets, liberation, and the hellish planets are all the same. For such devotees are interested only in the service of the Lord. Purport. Parvati might naturally have inquired how devotees become so exalted. Therefore, this verse explains that they are Narayan para, simply dependent on Narayan. They do not mind reverses in life because in the service of Narayan, they have learned to tolerate whatever hardships there may be. They do not care whether they are in heaven or in hell. They simply engage in the service of the Lord. This is their excellence. Anukulyena Krishna Nushilanam. They are liberally engaged in the service of the Lord, and therefore they are excellent. By using the word Britya Brityanam, Lord Shiva pointed out that although Chitraketu provided one example of tolerance and excellence, all the devotees who have taken shelter of the Lord as eternal servants are glorious. They have no eagerness to be happy by being placed in the heavenly planets, becoming liberated, or becoming one with Brahman, the supreme effulgence. These benefits do not appeal to their minds. They are simply interested in giving direct service to the Lord. I feel very fortunate that we have this verse to focus on today. It's such a nice opportunity to reflect on how fortunate we are to have this path. So, as explained in this verse, pure devotees of Krishna remain fearless in all circumstances because their only concern is serving him. In contrast, those following other spiritual paths, whether dhyana yoga, karmakanda yoga, or jnana yoga, still experience fear because their goals remain conditioned by material or impersonal aspirations. For example, dhyana yogis who meditate intensely and practice asanas and pranayam to attain self-realization, their fear is constant. The fear of distraction, of falling from their practice, of the resurgence of material desires that can erase years of progress in an instant. Even the great Vishwamitra Muni, despite lifetimes of austerity, fell into illusion when Manaka disturbed his meditation. Additionally, these dhyana yogis fear death before achieving perfection, as their path requires long years of discipline, and an untimely death means they must take birth again to complete their journey. Karmakanda yogis too live in fear. Fear of making a mistake in their duties, in their rituals. Fear of incurring bad karma. Fear of losing the fruits of their work. They seek to ascend to higher realms, yet even the highest planetary systems are temporary. So once they reach the heavenly planets, the Karmakanda yogis find more fear. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 11.3.20, even in material heaven, the living entity is disturbed by rivalry with his equals and envy of those superior to him. And since one's residence in heaven is finished with the exhaustion of pious fruitive activities, the denizens of heaven are afflicted by fear, anticipating the destruction of their heavenly life. Jnana yogis and Mayavadis, striving for liberation through knowledge and detachment, fear one thing above all else: falling back into material existence. They want to dissolve into Brahman, yet they constantly battle the risk of entanglement. In the 9th canto, Maharaj Nimi states, Mayavadis generally want freedom from accepting a material body because they fear having to give it up again. But devotees, whose intelligence is always filled with the service of the Lord, are unafraid. Indeed, they take advantage of the body to render transcendental loving service. Thus, in contrast to the practitioners of other forms of yoga, bhakti yogis are completely fearless. Why? Because they desire nothing for themselves. They seek neither heaven, nor avoidance of hell, nor liberation. Their only aspiration is to serve Krishna under any condition, whether in heaven or hell, in wealth or poverty, in joy or suffering. Sutta Goswami declares in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.6, Savaya pumsam paro dharmo yato bhaktir adokshaje ahaituki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. The supreme occupation for all humanity is that which awakens loving devotional service to the Lord. Such service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to fully satisfy the self. This is the defining feature of Krishna's pure devotees. Their love is unconditional. Their service unbroken. They do not calculate personal gain or loss. They do not seek comfort in this world or the next. Perhaps one of the most striking examples of selfless devotion is that famous pastime of Krishna's headache. When Krishna was suffering from a terrible headache, he declared that only the dust from his devotees' feet could cure his pain. So a messenger was sent to seek this remedy. The messenger first approached the great sages, renowned scholars, and even the demigods, begging for their foot dust. But they all refused, horrified at the thought of placing their feet on the Lord's head. This would be the greatest offense, they said. Surely we would be condemned to hell. While Krishna appreciated their reverence, he remained in pain. But when the messenger reached Vrindavan, the gopis immediately began gathering dust from their feet. And they were warned, do you understand that if you do this, you will go to hell? Without hesitation, they replied, let us go to hell for eternity, if that means Krishna will be relieved for even a moment. This is bhakti. This is the fearlessness of pure love, where even the worst suffering is embraced for Krishna's happiness. And this same spirit of selfless devotion is seen in Maharaj Chitraketu. When Parvati Devi curses him to become a demon in his next life, he does not protest. He does not defend himself or argue. We even heard in one of today's verses that King Chitraketu had the power to counter-curse Mother Parvati, but instead he bowed down with a peaceful heart and he accepted the curse. He did not consider it a loss, because a devotee sees everything as the will of the Lord. They don't see heaven, hell, a challenging body, or even liberation as anything significant. They see them all as equal opportunities to serve. And seeing Chitraketu's humility and equipoise, Lord Shiva glorifies him in today's verse. He declares that the devotees of Narayan are unique. They are beyond fear, beyond conditions, beyond personal considerations. Their devotion cannot be interrupted by any situation because their love is absolute. If we need an example of such fearless devotion, we need look no further than Srila Prabhupada. At 69 years old, Srila Prabhupada was living in Vrindavan, the holiest place in the universe, specifically in Radha Damodar Temple, an especially special place for Radha Damodar was where the 6 Goswamis performed their bhajan. And Prabhupada was surrounded by the sweet sound of kirtan, the fragrance of tulsi and sandalwood, the view of the Yamuna from his bedroom window, and devotees everywhere greeting each other with Radhe Radhe and Hare Krishna. At the order of his spiritual master, he left the comfort of Vrindavan and traveled alone to the most opposite place in the world, New York City. He entered the Lower East Side, the Bowery, the pit of material degradation, where crime, intoxication, and ignorance ruled. He was alone, a single devotee in a city of 8 million people who had never heard of Krishna. Did he feel fear? No. Did he experience hardship? Undoubtedly. He faced poverty, cold, hunger, but he never let it disturb his service. For Srila Prabhupada, Vrindavan and the Bowery were the same, because his only concern was serving Krishna. Wherever he could serve, that place became Vrindavan. And years later, when he had beautiful temples, luxurious quarters, and was served by his many disciples, he remained the same simple Srila Prabhupada. Sitting in a palatial room in the Los Angeles temple, he said to a disciple, "Do you see all these beautiful paintings, this very nice wallpaper, this chandelier, this nice furniture? Do you see how they are serving me prasadam on silver plates? I am simply longing for my simple room along the Yamuna River in Radha Damodar temple. That was sense gratification. This is an austerity. But for preaching, I accept. And whether in poverty or wealth, he was the same, unshaken, unchanged, unmoved, because his heart was fixed on only one thing, serving Krishna and his Guru Maharaj. There is a parable, one that illustrates the position of a true devotee. Once a prophet arrived in a great kingdom, and people from all walks of life came to him, eager for his blessings and insight into their future. First, a prince approached. The prophet looked at him and said, it is better that you live forever. Next, a brahmachari came forward. The prophet said, better you die now. Then a butcher stepped up. The prophet said, better you neither live nor die. Finally, a sadhu, a saintly devotee, approached. The prophet smiled and said, better you either live or die. And the people gathered around were bewildered. And why did the prophet give different answers to each person? He explained, this prince is drowning in enjoyment. He has a beautiful palace, endless luxuries, and all facilities for sense gratification. Naturally, he engages in sinful activities, blinded by pleasure. As long as he lives, he enjoys. But the moment he dies, his sinful reactions will come upon him, and he will suffer. So it is better he live forever. Then he turned to the brahmachari, and he said, this renunciate is enduring so much austerity, sleeping on the bare floor, eating bland food, carrying out menial service without complaint. He has no prestige, no status, no material comforts. Society calls him impractical, lazy. Yet he continues to serve the Lord and his Guru with humility. His life is filled with hardship now, but when he dies, he will be liberated, going back to Krishna for eternity. Better he die now and receive his eternal reward. And the butcher, the prophet shook his head. His life is already a living hell. Every day he is surrounded by pain, by the cries of terrified animals pleading for their lives. And when he dies, he will suffer the consequences of his merciless actions. For him, neither life nor death is desirable. Both are suffering. Better he neither lives nor dies. And finally, the sadhu, the pure devotee. The prophet smiled. Just see, this devotee is simply immersed in the loving service of the Lord. Whether he is in this world or the next, his experience is the same. If he lives, he serves Krishna. If he dies, he serves Krishna. For a devotee, life and death make no difference. Better he either live or die. And this is the defining nature of the pure devotee. A devotee does not live for material gain, nor do they seek to die to escape suffering. Their only desire is to serve Krishna. Srila Rupa Goswami confirms this in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Iha yasya harerdasya karmana manasa gira nikila shapi afyastu jivan mukta sa uchate. A person acting in Krishna consciousness with his body, mind, intelligence, and words is a liberated person even within the material world, although he may be engaged in many so-called material activities. So devotees' liberation is not defined by their physical location, but by the purity of their heart. A true Vaishnava does not seek comfort, nor desire comfort, nor seek escape. They simply desire to serve. His Holiness Radha Swami Maharaj explained that some devotees desire to get away from a hectic life situation and go to a peaceful place like Vrindavan, where they can chant the holy name and be alone, unbothered. He said, that is a nice sentiment, but they will never understand what is Vrindavan by that process. Vrindavan is not so cheap. The holy name is not so cheap. It is through surrender and devotion that we can truly understand Vrindavan as it is. He said, it is when we make the order of our spiritual master our life and soul. It is when we cultivate this attitude of being willing to do anything, anywhere in the service of our spiritual master that Vrindavan is truly revealed to us. Because Vrindavan is only revealed to the heart that is pure and unmotivated. It is only by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, not by our own efforts, not even by our own pursuits in chanting the holy name or performing austerities, that we can ever understand what is Vrindavan. The greatest austerity for us is not external hardship, but surrendering our own ideas of what spiritual life should be and simply serving Guru and Krishna. And Narottam Das Thakur confirmed this in his writings when he said, only when I give up all selfish, independent desires will I understand Vrindavan. Although Narottam Das Thakur lived in Vrindavan, under the guidance of Srila Jiva Goswami and Lokanath Goswami, he was sent on a lifelong preaching mission, traveling through Bengal and beyond. Externally, he left his beloved Vrindavan. But because he humbly served the order of his spiritual master, he never left Vrindavan at all. And this is real renunciation, not escaping the world, but surrendering to the mission of Guru and Krishna. And as Radhanath Swami says, it will be difficult. If it were not difficult, it would not be purifying. This same spirit of fearless surrender was seen in the early disciples of Srila Prabhupada. They did not seek comfort. They did not run from difficulties. They simply took his order as their life and soul. I would like to glorify a few of them that came to my mind. His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj. When Srila Prabhupada asked him to stay in India, he faced unimaginable challenges, enduring extreme heat, without electricity. He struggled to establish ISKCON in Mumbai amid intense local resistance, threats, and seemingly insurmountable obstacles: dengue fever, malaria, jaundice, internal disagreements among devotees, and even sleeping on the floor with rats. Prabhupada remarked, Bombay is like Kurukshetra, and our Giriraj is Arjuna. Yet through every hardship, His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj never wavered. Today, ISKCON Juhu stands as a testament to his fearless dedication to Srila Prabhupada's mission. His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj ki. Her Grace Malati Devi Dasi. When Srila Prabhupada sent Malati Devi and 5 other disciples to England, they had nothing. No money, no home, no security. Homeless and struggling, she lived in a cold, filthy London subway station with her 6-week-old baby. She braved the streets with her god siblings to distribute books, cooked and shared prasadam despite having no money and scarce ingredients. And she played a key role in introducing Krishna consciousness to the Beatles, all while carrying a baby on her hip. Reflecting on those days, she later said, most of the time in the early days, it was very hard. Often we would go hungry. We had hardly any possessions, no money, no protection. It often got very cold. We had nothing. All we had was love for Srila Prabhupada. Her Grace Malati Devi Dasi ki. And last but certainly not least, I will share Her Grace Yamuna Devi Dasi, also sent by Srila Prabhupada to pioneer Krishna consciousness with her god siblings in London, also homeless, sleeping in the filthy London subway station. Yamuna Devi faced poverty and rejection, but remained fully surrendered. And her devotion radiated through kirtan, capturing one of the most famous musicians in the world, George Harrison's attention, and leading to the historic recording of the Govindam prayers now played daily in ISKCON temples worldwide. And a few years later, as one of Srila Prabhupada's dancing white elephants, Yamuna Devi traveled and preached across India, enduring the same harsh conditions with unwavering faith in her spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada then sent her to Vrindavan and to study deity worship at the Goswami temples, and he entrusted her with establishing the deity worship standards for Krishna Balaram Mandir. And she also mastered Indian cooking, later publishing an award-winning cookbook that introduced ISKCON's vegetarian cuisine to the world. And we know the only reason she mastered Indian cuisine was to please Srila Prabhupada, so that she could best serve him in the way that he desired. Her life was pure bhakti, every action an offering to Krishna and Guru. Her Grace Yamuna Devi, ki. None of these Vaishnavas asked, where will I stay? Where will I be comfortable? Their only thought was, Srila Prabhupada has asked me to do this, so I will do it, no matter what. Srila Prabhupada explained that devotees have different temperaments. Some naturally prefer to live under trees like sadhus, while others are more comfortable in a palace. But he made one thing very clear. A devotee should not be attached to either the tree or the palace. If your spiritual master asks you to live under a tree, you live under a tree. If he asks you to live in a palace, you live in a palace. And this is real renunciation, not rejecting material things, but surrendering our own ideas of spiritual life. True detachment means serving Krishna and Guru wherever they place us. His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj, Her Grace Malati Devi, Her Grace Yamuna Devi lived by this principle. They did not seek comfort or hesitate in the face of hardship. They surrendered, and Krishna used them as instruments to spread his mission in miraculous ways. The Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 2, verse 37, warns that fear arises when we forget our true identity as servants of Krishna. Maya makes us hesitate, doubt, and seek security in material arrangements. But an intelligent person engages unflinchingly in devotional service under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, whom one should accept as their worshipable deity and their very life and soul. We may not be at that level yet. Maybe some of us are. I can think of a few. I'm certainly not. But we can take inspiration from those who are on that level. We can pray for the same spirit of surrender, the same courage to serve without hesitation. Because as we hear in today's verse, this is the path of bhakti. This is the only path where fear has no place. And by Srila Prabhupada's mercy, it is a path that is open to all of us. Hare Krishna. I'd like to hear from you now. Reflections or comments or corrections, questions? We could, go for hours.
Well, here's a few.
A few more glorious disciples of Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah, and no doubt everyone's heard of these great souls, pure devotees. Satsvarup Das Goswami, a poet, writer, and lecturer who wrote many books, including poems, memoirs, and novels. Jayapataka Swami, a teacher and ISKCON sannyasi, was initiated by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami in 1968. Tamal Krishna Goswami, Vishnu Jan Maharaj, Bhakti Sarup Damodar Maharaj, Ambarish Das, Sadaputa Das, Bhakti Charu Swami, Druta Karma Das, and that's just a few, and it gives some brief overview of their activities.
It'd be a wonderful exercise for all of us to do today.
Well, it's unlimited, and
Yes.
it's so nectarian to see. My favorite story about Malati is how she was going to leave Mayapur.
Yes.
She made the plan. Said, that's it, I'm leaving. She made up her mind. And that day she was cooking for Srila Prabhupada and his godbrothers. You want to tell the story?
No, you tell it. I'm nodding because I'm relishing remembering
I
it.
think
Yeah.
you probably know it better
do.
than me, but she just thought, okay, now I'm trying to serve and the godbrothers are here, and let me just do the best I can. And it was time for Srila Prabhupada's lunch, and she covered up completely. Nothing was showing. And she crawled on her hands and knees and brought the plate to Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada said, yes, this is my disciple, and no doubt you're finding fault because this is a woman. But she would slit her throat for me, and I would do the same for her. And he said that in front of his godbrothers. Also, a little tidbit, Chitraketu was joking because Mother Parvati was completely naked, by the way. No, everyone out of total politeness is not mentioning that, but and what to speak, the supreme personality of the material nature, yes, completely gorgeous in every way. So,
Thank you.
Anyway, just want to glorify Chitraketu some more. Haribol.
Go, Klananda Prabhu.
Was a wonderful class. Thank you for repeating the words of realized souls. It just entered my heart. As we see in the translation, devotees solely engage in the devotional service. So you named a few who are very stalwarts and popular in this ISKCON world. This morning I was listening to Radha Swami, and it so happened that he happened to glorify one of his god sisters. She was from Idaho.
She's from where?
Idaho.
Idaho, okay.
Is this how you pronounce?
Yes.
Idaho. So she shared her realization while she was in deathbed. She said, "This is not a deathbed for me. This is Ganges' bed." She was suffering from cancer, and that sort of cancer, doctor said it happens to one among millions. It was so terrible. And she was practically paralyzed, and her realization was she never experienced the urgency to chant the holy names till then. And she was relishing chanting 64 rounds every day, reading Prabhupada's books, totally immersed in every single word of Prabhupada's books was hitting her consciousness, she said. And that's how she said, "This is Ganges' bed. I do not want to exchange this situation for anything in this entire existence."
Bhakti Tirtha Swami.
Yes, yes. And then at the end, Radha Swami said, "Guess what is her name? What name she got from Srila Prabhupada?" It was Mother Kunti. And New Vrindavan. Okay, I didn't know that part. Thank you for letting me know. So then he said, just like Mother Kunti, yeah, Vipada Santu Shashvatat, Tatra Tatra Jagadguru, right? So let the calamities come on, and she could, I'm just paraphrasing, right? She could intensify in remembering and taking shelter of Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Sorry to take this one. I just want to glorify Mother Kunti. I mean, obviously we have every guru has a Kunti, but and two or three sometimes. But this one in particular, she was here in Dallas. She took, at one time, our Nityananda and Manjwali's house was just a field.
Yeah.
She took the square footage of where the house is sitting on and grew marigolds. And for 3 years, we didn't have, and during the summers, warm months, we did not have to order flowers.
Wow.
We had marigolds fresh
Wow.
every day. And devotees, they learn to dress using different flowers to accent the marigolds. And she grew that. And also, we were on a car trip together, going out to the West Coast. And we were driving Shamananda's van, and the wheel fell off. I was driving, and she was sitting next to me. And she empowered me, because I have never dealt with anything like that in my life. And because of her, we kept the car from flipping and going off
Krishna.
It was her. She was chanting so steadily.
Wow.
And a very dear friend that I miss very much.
Wow. Our
Anyone
Grace
else
Kunti
wanna
Devi
glorify?
Ki.
Devotee's mother, Kunti Ki Jai.
Hare Krishna. One thing that struck me in one of the verses, Lord Shiva was talking, and so first he's glorifying Chitraketu and devotees in general as being very dear to Krishna. And then he says, I am also very dear to Krishna.
Yeah.
You noted that too?
Yeah, I noticed that.
I just thought it was it just kind of struck me because sweet, but like I think most of us would not say that. I'm also very dear to Krishna, But actually it's true. Every devotee is so dear to Krishna, and it's kind of like, I thought it was exemplary of the confidence that we should have as devotees, Utsaha Nishchaya Daryat, that we should have confidence that Krishna is there, that he is my best friend, that he does love me, that I am dear to him, he is protecting me and providing for me, and he is going to take me back home, back to Godhead, as long as I keep hold of his lotus feet and serving his devotees. So it's something we can meditate on, that I am also very dear to Krishna.
Yeah. Thank you for that reminder. I was just reading Nectar Devotion the other day, yesterday, and I was reading that section about how you have to have that, and a devotee has to have that faith that I am trying sincerely, and Krishna will give me his mercy. Thank you for that reminder. Who else?
So many in our community. We have so many wonderful devotees.
Oh, we do.
Mother Kunkumangi, she dresses deities and in the kitchen cooking right now.
Yeah.
And so many. And some people say, let me ask a question here, because I know you've got a couple minutes left. But the question is that sometimes we hear that anyone who glorifies us is our enemy. And so devotees get very upset, because I was asking that question the other day, and someone was really, praising me, and I became extremely irritated, and they said, no. You have to be steady, and you offer that to your spiritual master. Mm-hmm. So the question here is, if the appreciation is sincere and loving, right, of Vishnupriya, Chakri, so many here that are dedicated, is there harm in that, or is that hurting them in any way?
I don't, not an authority at all. Well, is it harming them? I don't think it's harmful to praise them. Certainly if someone says that, I really wish that you wouldn't do that, then maybe don't praise them to their face, praise them behind their back. But, my spiritual master, he's a master of, he makes it a game of out-praising people. His godbrothers will praise him, and then he'll praise them, and then the godbrother will be like, no, and he praises him, and then it goes back and forth. It's a game to see who can win, and it's all completely sincere. And then in the end, it's ecstatic, and everybody kind of feels like they've lost. Actually, they don't feel like they've won.
I just remembered once you said, envy is an indirect form of appreciation.
Yeah, misplaced appreciation.
For others. So you might as well just directly appreciate and get purified. That's what he said. And even Bhaktisiddhanta Sarada Thakur, this is what he used to do with his disciples, just glorify each other. And you gave the answer to the question. He said, the receiver is passing it on to the parampara.
Yeah, that's what I heard His Holiness Bhakti True Swami Maharaj say, that when somebody praises your service, just say, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, because without him we wouldn't know how to do any of this.
Remember your spiritual master, glorify your guru. I'd be nothing without him.
Right.
I'd be nowhere without ISKCON.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm always praising you, Mother Kunti, but you let me know if I need to
It's
stop.
scary.
I just won't do it to your face.
One time, real quick, we had serious fighting going on in the Houston Temple.
Oh.
1111 Rosalie. I don't know if anybody, I don't think anyone in this room ever has been there. But it was called the Shoebox because it was a very square building, about 4.5 stories high. And the men were in one section, the ladies were down in the basement. The kitchen was on the middle level with the altar. And it was tight quarters. And we were all young and very high-spirited, passionate. And fights would happen. And it was fighting a lot. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj came in from Hong Kong, and he heard about all the fighting, and it was bad. And so he had everybody come in the temple room. He wanted every single devotee. And he went around the room, and he said, I want you to pick out a devotee in this room, each one of you, and try not to repeat the same person, and say 10 good things about them. And after that, we had no fights.
Haribol. Any other thoughts or questions? Right. Srila Prabhupada ki. Srimad Bhagavatam ki.